Hi everyone, this is a short video to try to help you understand how to do various kinds of rhythmic cues in Finale. So I'm focusing on the three main types that I tend to use the most. The first one, first of all, the way you do it is something called staff styles, which are in the staff tool, which looks like that. It's on the main tool palette. And staff styles change the appearance of notation. So the first way is to do a rhythmic notation in the staff itself, not floating above it. So as you can see in this example, we have some voicings, and then in the last one we've changed it so it's just rhythmic notation. And in this case, this is when it doesn't matter to you what the exact voicing is, you're just telling the player, just telling them the chord. So this is very easy to do, that you can just do this with a staff style that's already preset in Finale. So I'm going to show you, first of all I'm going to undo it. And the way you do that is you've chosen the staff style, I clicked and drag around it, and then you right click and you have the option to clear staff styles from score and parts, and then the staff style goes away. So if I originally wrote it like this and I decided to make this be rhythmic notation, or maybe make them all be rhythmic notation, I could just select the chords that I want to convert in that way, right click to get all my staff style options, here they all are, and choose the second one, which is called rhythmic notation. And again, I could do that with any of these. I could do with all of these, right? Now, the quick way to do it is to set a shortcut for this. And the way you program a shortcut with staff styles is to be in the tool, hold down the Shift key, and then click, hold down the letter at the same time as you're holding down the Shift key. Hold down the letter that you want to be the shortcut. In this case, I want the letter R for rhythmic notation to be the shortcut, so I'm holding down R. It takes me to this window. I click on the thing that I want to be that trigger with that shortcut, which in this case is rhythmic notation, and a little R appears in parentheses on the right, and that means it's programmed. R is now the shortcut for that. I say OK, and then I can just go back and select any voicing, any bunch of notes, and hit R, and it will convert it into rhythmic notation. Okay, the second way is normal notation. It could also be rhythmic notation, but I'm using normal notation, floating above the staff. Okay, usually we do this over slashes. Of course, slashes are what show us that, just telling the player, time is going by, we're leaving it up to you how to comp. But sometimes you want to give the player, whether it's a drummer or rhythm section instrument or something, you want to give them a sense of what figures are being accented in another part of the arrangement. So you want to have these cues up above the staff. So this is called kicks over time usually. So let's learn how to do this. Now, in this template I've given to some people, a staff style for that has already been built into it, and it's called rhythm cues over slashes. But I'm going to show you how to build this staff style yourself, because it's a good thing to know how to do, and you may want to modify it slightly. So here we go. To do this, I'm going to go into a different file. So say this is a piece of music, and you could have really anything in here, but you could have nothing actually even, but I'm going to put a chord. You decided that you wanted to have chord symbols, so you say something like, give it a chord symbol, in this case C minor 7. But again, you don't really have to have anything under there if you don't need to have anything. I'm now going to program the staff style. Here we go. I go to the staff tool. I control click and I choose Define Staff Styles. I then say New and give it a name. I'm going to call this Kicks Over Time. I then make it copyable. I can ignore all this other stuff and I go straight to alternate notation, click on settings, choose slash notation. See, it applies to layer 1 automatically. That's what you want it to do. You want it to apply to layer 1. Usually you can have it include other things that will show. In this case, I definitely want it to show the chords because I've put in a chord symbol. And then once you've decided all the things that you want it to show along with the slashes that will be there, you're finished with that stage. Then you go to the other layers, and here, because we're going to put our actual rhythms of kicks in another layer that's not layer 1, we want it to show notes in other layers because we're going to put notes in another layer. We also might want to show articulations, expressions, maybe even lyrics, It's up to you. When you're done with that, you say OK. Then you can click out of this. And then we can set a shortcut for it, which makes sense to call it K because it's kicks over time. So we hold down Shift, hold down K, navigate down to where you want it to apply. I want it to apply to that, say OK. And now when I hit K, while I've selected my measure, I get the slashes part. Now for the notes part, the kicks over time notes, because remember, see we have these notes floating over, that's what we want. We need to use a different layer. We're going to use what's called layer 4. What are layers? Layers are different parallel note entry corridors sort of that you can access, so you can have more than one part in the same staff. In this drum part here we have two layers. The layer 1 is black, layer 2 is red. In this drum part, the layer 1, the stems are going up and the layer 2 stems are going down. So it allows us to sort of have two parts in the same staff. We're going to use layer 4 because it's usually not used for anything else. Now we have to do something else. We have to go to the document options, under the document menu, document options, and go to layers and choose layer 4. Layer 4 is the layer that we usually use for kicks over time. So you want to click to have to freeze the stems and ties up, and then you want to adjust the floating rests by 7 steps. So that way that when you put in rests, they will be on the right level with the other notes. You want to not select playback because you don't want all your kicks over time playing back a single note, which is what it's going to be, because the note might not fit with the chord. It may not be what you want to hear at that moment. So we should not play it back. Then you do want it to affect music spacing. Check that one as well. So once that's all the way you want it, you click apply. This has already been done before, so that's why the apply is grayed out. Say OK. And now it's ready to go because the combination of our staff style that we've prepared and layer 4 is going to give us what we want. So the way we get to layers is in the lower left of your score. Click on that, go to layer 4. There is a shortcut. If you want to remember this, is Option Command number of the layer. So I'm doing Option Command 4, and that gives me the layer 4. I'm now in layer 4. I can now enter notes, and because I told my staff style to show notes in other layers, it's going to show up. So I want to say do a kicks over time, maybe dotted quarter to 8th note, tied over to a half note or something like that. And now I've got kicks over time. Because of our settings, remember we did all these settings and document options with our layers. It's all working very well. Okay, now we're going to talk about creating a floating rhythmic notation staff that can be used for kicks over time in a very flexible way, like this example here. First of all, whatever your score is, in this case we have essentially a 4-stage score with a melody, chordal, voicings, bass, and drums. Whatever it is, you need to add an additional staff, which would be called the cue staff. So you have this extra staff that you've added to your score, and if you don't know how to do that, you just go to Score Manager and add an instrument there, and then you choose and add it in that way. That's one of the ways to do it. So now you have this extra staff floating up there. So you go about writing your score, you're arranging it, and then when the time comes when you have all your elements arranged, you say, I want to create my cue staff that shows the main rhythmic information, main rhythmic hits that I want to convey to other players. And maybe that main rhythmic information is in your bass part, maybe it's in your chordal part. Whatever part it's in, you are then going to copy that to this staff. So I'm going to copy this chordal part right here. Do Command C to copy it. I put it right in there. And now I've got a duplication of this chordal part, which is what I want to use for my cue. Then I am now going to convert this into something that looks like that, this thing floating above. And the way you do that, I have a pre-programmed staff style. So those of you that are watching this that have taken a Finale workshop with me, you have this staff style in your template. So you don't really need to know how to program it, but at the end of this video, I will show you how to do it for those who are interested. So if you've got the template, at this point, all you have to do is select the correct staff style. And of course, the way you select staff style is by going to the staff tool, then control click and either just move down and find the staff style. And the name of the staff style is Chordal Cue Staff Playback. You click on that and it converts it to this kind of notation. Okay, but you'll notice that it's full size, and by the way, I should have done it here as well. But you'll notice that sometimes Chordal Cue Staff is made to be a bit smaller so it can easily fit above another staff. So you can make it smaller by using the percentage resize tool, and you just click on the staff to get resize staff, and just usually people do 70%, but you can do any size you want. Say OK, and now you have a floating cue staff that you could later on attach to any part. If this was a lead sheet, you might want to just have it remain there and have it attached to the melody part, in which case you would just hide everything else, and you hide everything with the staff style again. So you can do is the kind of hide you want is four-side staff collapse. I'm going to make a shortcut for that, Shift H. There it is. So now all I have to do is press H. And I've hidden everything, and so now my lead sheet will end up looking like this. I'll have rhythmic cues floating above, and I'll have the melody here. So that's the short way. Okay, now if you wanted to learn how to program, if that's enough for you and you have my template and you know you can use Chordal Cue Staff, you don't need to know anymore. But if you want to know how to program it, I will now talk about that. So if I'm building a Chordal Cue Staff, what I do is I go into the staff tool and define staff styles. You create the new staff style. I've called it test for now because I already have a cue staff. Then you make it copyable, and then these are the settings that you do. You come down here, and in alternate notation, you choose rhythmic notation. Then you click on stems up. Then you decide what you want to show in layer 1. Then you usually would not choose to show anything in another layer because you're already showing the chords in this layer if you want them to show. You say OK. Then you come back here and you deselect bar lines, clefs, endings and text repeats, key signatures, measure numbers, staff lines, time signature, because you just want this to float. You don't want it to, you want it to sort of be kind of transparent. Do all that, and then it's ready to go, and it will do this. So now if I apply that new style as that, it floats above. And of course, if I have ties and stuff, it will still show that. And you've created it. And then you can give it a name that makes sense, like the one I called Chordal Cue Staff or some other name, and you can make a shortcut for it. And then, of course, you can always go to the percentage tool and make it smaller. So that's it. Absorb what I said in this video. You can create any of these 3 styles. The advantage of this one is that you can play back. You have a lot of flexibility because you could have one part playing all this stuff here, and then you could have another part playing back these chords in this rhythm. And it's very good for playback. If you don't care so much about playback, the other 2 are fine. Okay.